Philadelphia 76ers fell last night in disappointing fashion to the Boston Celtics after once holding a 26-point lead, marking their second loss in a row after also losing to the Denver Nuggets on Friday night. This on the heels of a 5-game winning streak. But I'm here to tell you, those two losses aren't an indictment really on this team at this stage of the season. I think the Sixers are in a good position now, sitting at 19 and 29, not to be sellers at the trade deadline. We had a massive trade in the NBA on Sunday night. Obviously, Saturday night a little bit bigger with Luka going from the Mavericks to the Lakers, but on Sunday night as well, Zach LaVine is traded from the Bulls to the Kings, De'Aaron Fox from the Kings to the San Antonio Spurs, and now the Bulls, a team in front of the Sixers, are clearly in tank mode themselves. And I think for what the Sixers have gone through this season between the injuries of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Jared McCain, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, Kelly Oubre, Yabusele, the list goes on and on of the Sixers that have been forced to miss time this season. But for the Sixers still to be sitting here at 19 and 29, so within striking distance of a playoff spot, I think it's time to not blow up this team, not trade any of these assets at the deadline, but perhaps look to even acquire or just kind of stay pat and roll with this crew from here on. I think it was huge for the Sixers for over the last few weeks of obviously Joel Embiid missing time, Paul George missing time recently. For them to, as they were on a 6-7 game losing streak, for them to kind of hold ship and hold the fort down and right the ship a little bit and go on that 5-game winning streak that we saw against the Cavaliers, Bulls, Lakers, Kings, 4-game winning streak, and then to lose in disappointing fashion to both the Nuggets and the Celtics. That just goes to show me, though, you're doing that without Paul George. You're doing that without Joel Embiid. Obviously, Jeremy McCain out for the season. You won't be counting on him. But for the Sixers, after that Nuggets game where they lost 144-109 on national television, and then it was the story that after the game, Nick Nurse basically called out the team and went off on them in the post-game locker room. For them to kind of turn the season around from there, winning 4 in a row, and then looking competitive and arguably outplaying the Celtics and the Nuggets, who are both title contenders in their own right, without Joel Embiid and without Paul George on the floor, I think you have to look with only 2 games left until the trade deadline. And guys like Kelly Oubre, guys like Gershon Yabusele, guys like Paul George even have been in the discussions. Guys like Caleb Martin have been in the discussion on the potential trade market. I think you look to stay pat or add at this point of the season, because what the Sixers were able to show in these last few weeks, what I've been really hating on them and talking criticism on them the most for this season so far in the games that they haven't had some of these key pieces, is the effort and just the accountability that they've had on the floor. And I think Nick Nurse really got through that team. Sure, they should have probably won last night holding a 26-point lead against the Boston Celtics. Friday night with the Nuggets was a very good back-and-forth game. But you're without Joel Embiid in that one. That's a game with Joel Embiid, with Paul George. You're most likely coming away with both of those wins. So I think one of the main issues for this Sixers team this season has just been effort and showing up and wanting to be there. And I think over the past 2 weeks, they've really found a way to do that. And I think that's huge for this team. Not only for this season, but going forward as well. It goes to show you that Nick Nurse hasn't lost the locker room. He still has his finger on this team. He knows his team, and he knew how to sort of get the most out of them. And for them to kind of stay afloat here, I know it's not the most encouraging sign, the most encouraging discussion to say, all right, look at the standings here. They're still not even in the plan. But as I said, the Chicago Bulls just made a trade. It looks like they could potentially be even moving a few more guys. Nikola Vucevic's name has been a name floated around in trade rumors. The Sixers aren't going to fall even with the roster that they have right now. Even if Embiid and Paul George, I don't think, played a game the rest of the season. They're not falling below the Raptors, Nets, Hornets, or Wizards. They're going to finish above the Bulls for sure. Then they're kind of right here in this mix. Like, why can't they make a run at the Hawks, at the Magic, at the Pistons? The Heat, they're in a debacle as well. The whole Jimmy Butler saga, what's going on there? You could certainly see them falling out. I think the 6th seed is probably the ceiling for this team to get to, but I would take my chances if the Sixers are able to get to the 6th seed in with a first-round matchup with the New York Knicks. Sure, give me that. I'll take my chances. So I think when you're sitting here at 19 and 29, obviously the season hasn't gone the way it was viewed as at the beginning of the year, the way it was kind of planned. The hope of competing for the 1 or 2 seed, competing for potential home court in the East, and making a run at not only the Eastern Conference, but the NBA Finals as well, to be sitting here still out of the play-in. I think they're still in a decent enough position where you don't look to trade a guy like Kelly Oubre. You don't look to trade a guy like Yabusele. And sure, while they are in expiring deals, there's no guarantee if you're going to have them next year, and there's no guarantee that you're going to make the playoffs or make a run at something this year. I think they give you the best chance, and Joel Embiid, we're recording this on Monday night, was ruled questionable ahead of Tuesday night's game against the Mavericks. If he doesn't return then, potentially Wednesday night against the Heat. It was looking like it is inevitable that he will be returning soon. Now, how long will he be able to return for? That is another major discussion. But with the trade deadline coming up on Thursday, I think the Sixers have still done a decent enough job to have themselves in position to be in position. And that has been the main theme and the main goal of the season. Ever since what's going on with Joel Embiid, the plan, the ramp-up period, who knows still what is officially going on, because it seems like even on his pre-game workouts, on-court workouts these past couple weeks that he looks, or at least last week, that he looks ready to go, and the Sixers have still held him out. Maybe they're just waiting to hold him out till the trade deadline and see kind of what happens, not just around the league, but within the Sixers team themselves. And I'm not saying Joel Embiid is going to be traded. Obviously, he can't even be traded till the offseason. But with Luka Doncic getting traded the other night, no one is untouchable. Does Paul George potentially get moved? We'll be talking about it all here all week, with the trade deadline obviously coming up on Thursday. But my main point with this is I think the Sixers have done a decent enough job with all the injuries to still be in position to be in position, which means they are in position to still make a run at a playoff spot. And that's been kind of what they've been climbing up to and what they've been building up to since the slow start to the season really has plagued them down. I think you can look at a guy like Tyrese Maxey and say basically he's been the driving force behind this. He's been awesome. I think he's been, you can argue, the month of January, he was the best player in the Eastern Conference, best guard in the Eastern Conference. And even the past couple nights against the Nuggets and the Celtics, he's played really well as well. But up to 27.7 points per game, 6 assists per game. Those averages, his field goal percentages are starting to come up a little bit. He wasn't the most efficient player at the beginning of the year, but he's also been really defending well, close to 2 steals per game, by far his best defensive year. So I think what we wanted to see out of the Sixers team, I think, after that Nick Nurse kind of post-game tirade that went on in the Nuggets locker room was how did that team respond? If that team bottomed out from there, they went on to lose their next 4 or something, then sure, we'd be sitting here saying, trade these people, trade these players, get these assets back in return for these expiring deals. Yabusele on the expiring deal, Kelly Oubre on a potential expiring deal. He's got the option next year. Caleb Martin on a very affordable 3-year, $24 million contract. Like, the Sixers have very movable contracts here. And I said it after that Nuggets game. I came on here, I literally waved the white flag, threw in the towel, and I was like, blow it up. Get the assets that you need. This team isn't going anywhere. No need to rush Embiid back. But now you look at the moves the Bulls made. You look at the standings above you. Embiid's supposed to be coming back this week. Paul George's supposed to be coming back this week. You could have a full roster potentially here, and who knows, once again, how long that'll last. But a full starting lineup of Yabusele at the 4, Embiid at the 5, Paul George at the 3. You look at Tyrese at the 1, and then kind of pick your poison at the 2. You put Caleb Martin. Do you put Kelly Oubre? We'll see. Kelly Oubre probably better suited to come off the bench. But the lineup is looking like it's getting ready to return. Who knows? Maybe even go out and acquire, another guard. Justin Edwards has played really well. Ricky Council has played really well. I think Nick Nurse has done a good enough job to keep this team in position that you don't have to blow it up completely at the trade deadline. And I'd say at this stage of the season, that's a win. For everything that could have gone wrong this season so far for the Sixers, it has. And you look at kind of that bad stretch there, losing the Pelicans, Orlando, Oklahoma City, New York, Indiana, Milwaukee, Denver. You lose 7 in a row, then you rip off 4 in a row, and you easily could have won these last 2 games. But Tyrese Maxey is playing the best ball, arguably, of his career. 42 against the Nuggets on Friday, 34 against the Celtics on Sunday night, 16 of those coming in the first quarter. I don't think you want to blow it up, and I'm not going to say not make Tyrese Maxey happy, but he could basically be like, I'm playing the best ball of my career right now. The big fella's coming back. Paul George is supposed to be returning from his finger injury as well. Why not try and make a run at this thing still and stand pat at the trade deadline? Because you can make an argument Kelly Oubre is playing potentially the best basketball of his career as well. Yabusele too. That's been my point ever since the Sixers started kind of winning again, going on that 4-game win streak. This is a group of role players that we've been praying for, hoping to the gods for years to have it around Joel Embiid. Now they finally have it, and now Embiid's going to return, and we're going to ship him off. That would just be the most kind of ironic thing ever. But it's this situation the Sixers have put themselves in after a slow start and obviously dealing with the slew of injuries that they have. But also, you're still in position here to make a run at a playoff spot, not only, but potentially a top 6 seed. I think they could still get. I'm not afraid of the Magic, the Pistons, the Hawks, the Heat in front of them. I think the Sixers, when healthy, can be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. The 6 seed, probably the ceiling for what the Sixers have dug themselves into. But I say ahead of Thursday's trade deadline, big picture wise, it doesn't make sense to make these trades for this year. Caleb Martin, you could revisit to look to trade that next year. But I'm saying with the way Yabusele and the way Kelly Oubre are playing, sure, their value might not ever be higher, but you don't know how many seasons left of Joel Embiid you're going to have. And if he is able to sustain some injury luck and be healthy for this kind of stretch run over these last 35 games or so, if he's able to play 25 of those and stay in position to get into shape and ramped up for the playoffs, then that's the goal and that's the dream and that's what the Sixers need to do. So I'm saying right now, stay pat ahead of this deadline. Look to add, don't look to trade. But obviously there's going to be a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. Who knows? The Sixers could drop the game tomorrow night to the Mavericks. They could drop the game Wednesday night to the Heat, and we could be sitting here with a different tone. But remains to be seen from there. But let us know in the comments. Would you look to add anyone at the trade deadline? Would you look to ship off some of these attractive expiring deals in a Yabusele or in a Kelly Oubre? Caleb Martin has a very attractive contract as well. What do we do ahead of Thursday's trade deadline? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, drop a like, drop a subscribe, and we'll be talking to you next time here on Sixers Digest.